Welcome back to Educational Warfare. I'm Dr. Jordan Lauer. We're here with our Mailbag episode today. So excited you could join us. We're continuing talking about exhaustion, focusing on exhaustion at home like our last episode. You can find us to connect with us, to be able to be a part of this Mailbag episode on X. We're at EDU Warfare. I use the hashtag Educational Warfare if you want to just make a comment. You can email us at educationalwarfare.pod@gmail.com. We are here for you. We want to hear from you. We've had so many great comments. We have so many nice things. We really appreciate that from all of you. Just being able to reach out to us, talk to us, even if it's just saying, hey, I really appreciate this, or if you got some great strategies and comments, it really means a lot to us because our whole goal here is not just to talk to you or at you, it's to make you a part of this. So these are huge parts of this. That's the reason we do a mailbag after every content episode. So we're not just bulldozing along with these ideas and these topics. We want your feedback so we can see how you're feeling. Are we hitting the mark? Are we dead on? Many of you have said that. Many of you have given great reassurance about what we've been talking about and what we're doing, and we really appreciate that. So today we're going to continue talking about exhaustion at home and how it affects us, how it can affect our families, our spouses, our children, how it funnels back into work. Because if we're feeling that exhaustion at work, it comes home with us, it doubles down there, and then boom, we're back at work. And now we have double the exhaustion because the cycle continues. So we've talked about many things to be able to help that, some strategies, some ideas. So I'm excited to keep going. And like I said, please keep these emails coming. Please keep the comments coming. Reach out to us on the socials. It's been great, and we really appreciate it. Today we have a couple emails. Let's get going on a couple of those.
You've got mail.
Blake writes in, how does one manage and prioritize teaching 3 different preps, which I have 1 standard, 2 honors, and 4 AP classes, while also sponsoring clubs, keeping up with PLCs, sports, gate duties, etc., all while having a wife and young child? Blake, that's a great question. And thank you so much for emailing in and asking and just being a part of this. I really appreciate it. Dr. Jackson really appreciates it. So that question is basically the crux of why and how education attacks all of us as educators. We're asked to do so much. And I love how Blake added that he also has a wife and child, and those things and the feeling of not being there for them adds even more to exhaustion. That's just a part we don't talk about. We get to this point in our life where we all have families or working towards that, or at least have spouses, and you're doing your normal job, and now there's just extra things. So I love that he added that in. So Blake, as Dr. Jackson and I discussed, last episode, the war at home, it starts with making a plan of when you work while at home and share that with your wife, right? You make her part of that plan. You don't just come in and be like, oh, hey, I've got this plan. I'm going to work on Tuesdays and Thursdays for 3 hours. To help lessen that exhaustion, help lessen that feeling you're having with your family, if you guys work together on that and get her input, then now you're doing this together. You've conquered this together. And those gate duties and everything, that's part of that. That's scheduling that. Anytime I have something like a gate duty where I have to possibly work after school, the first thing I do is, text my wife and I say, hey, they want a couple gate workers. I was thinking of helping out. How does that work? What do we have? We're just checking calendars and checking schedules. That way it's not all of a sudden like I'm not here, because our spouses work. So if you're all of a sudden not there because of a school duty, then that's extra work on them. Possibly, gets a little frustration going. And now you're having that conversation of, hey, you worked all week on your lessons, and now you're all of a sudden not here on this night, and I'm taking care of our young child or our multiple children. And that's something we have to discuss too is, most jobs, the type of work you do is the work while you're at your office, at your location. And then you might have a little extra things to do here and there. You're catching up on reports or whatnot. But that's really it. For teachers, we have teach students, grade, all that. Then we have coming home, lessons. But then we have these extra parts, these extra things that don't seem a lot at first. When you're first start in the school year, you're kind of in that groove. And then it's as school sports get it going, they start adding up. It's like, oh, you have to wear this. You have to work this gate. Oh, we should probably go to this football game to support our students. Oh, there's a play. And those things just keep popping up. And it is part of our job, but to possibly to a spouse who isn't a teacher, doesn't work in that, it just seems like you're not home. Honestly, I mean, when, to us, it's this idea, again, we've talked about this. Teaching is a profession of the soul. We care. And there's so much more to it than standing in front of class, delivering information, checking for understanding, delivering more information, giving an assessment. It's so much more than that. It is those little moments when a kid looks up and sees you in the audience at the play, or you come up to him and talk to him after, or they see you at the football game. Those just add into that. That's just a whole part of this huge funnel of things that teachers have to do. So you can't really just skip them. A lot of us feel that tug and pull. And again, a big part of teaching is that emotional part. And if you feel like I'm just not there for students, it starts to exhaust you too, because you get that those ideas. Am I a good teacher? Do I care enough? And those type of things start to weigh on you. So what I like to do, Blake, is, it's really tough. There's no way to really manage that. I wish I had an amazing answer. But one thing I've done when I've had multiple preps, and there have been several times where multiple preps for any non-teachers, that means that you have a singular planning period, which is usually, it's the same length of your classes, so 48 minutes, let's say. But you have one year I had 5 preps, which means I had 5 different subjects, but 1 planning. So you basically have to play survivor with your classes. It's like, sadly, contemporary issues, you've been voted off the island today and you don't get any work during planning. You'll have to either scramble for something the next day, or now I'll be working at home. And that's where this gets to. We're not just bringing stuff home sometimes because we want to or because we're lazy. My planning period, I don't have my feet up on the desk and I'm just leaning back, not doing anything, or just casually grading papers. My planning period, and so many teachers out there planning period, is just a mad dash. It's frantic, it's manic. If you get caught where you think you know where something is, or you think there's a resource you want to use and you can't find it, or it's just not working, you don't think it'll be good, and now you get caught into looking for something else, you almost panic when you're in your head, or like, oh my gosh, it's been 10 minutes and I still haven't even found an activity or even finished this activity. It does feel like that. So often when we're bringing work home, it's not because we're lazy. It's simply because we didn't get to it in the time we had. Bell to bell teaching is a big mandate. So you don't have much time at your desk. It's not even like you can walk over there and click through a couple things and do that. It's your planning. It's maybe if you have a study hall class, you might be able to get some done. And then it's the time you get after school before you got to get home or get to your kids' events. And then it's home. So the best I can say is just really work to be organized. And I hope nobody thinks I'm saying that to be, to be facetious or, be organized. Thanks, Dr. Lauer. I'm saying that as in figure out how you work. Figure out how you attack things. Figure out the speed at which you attack things. And then start to organize yourself in there. When I had multiple preps, I would try to, in my planning period, give myself 15 minutes per to organize what I'm doing, right? I have 15 minutes in this class to get my activity, to make sure my activities align with the standards, to make sure it's high rigor, to make sure it has all those little check marks as teachers do, so it's high quality and not just here's do this as a time filler. That's actually progressing my students. And then I'd move on. Now, then any extra time I had, I could go into either grading something or finding something to spice it up a little bit. Okay, I have this. Now this is a really cool video or this is a little activity. But if I made sure that for each class, I got at least my plan done, at least my thing done, then I'm not sitting at home scrolling with my laptop open, trying to find an activity. If I do have to work at home, or those set days, now we go back to talking to your spouse, those set days where I'm going to grade. Now, basically in my planning, I have that. I've made copies. I put it digitally and, use that digital thing. We have so many programs now like Kami and some of the built-in systems that just let them annotate online. They can just, each kid gets a copy and then they answer it there. Use that. And if you don't have time, if you have multiple preps, instead of making copies, you're getting the same thing. Let's be honest. The only reason you really don't want to do it is because you don't like grading digitally, probably. Because the kids, they're used to that. And also on another level for the kids, I really like the digital assignments that they just turn in digitally. Because again, before we go to the kids, back to teachers, I don't have to have stacks of paper I'm carrying home. When you have 3 classes of 25 or more, that's 3 stacks of papers I got to put in a bag. I got to separate. I got to keep around. I got to find a place to put in my room until I'm ready to bring it home. And then you still have 2 other classes probably. It's all one place. It's digital. Okay. Now for the kids' end, I really like it because 1, they can't lose it. So that excuse is gone. Oh, I don't know where that worksheet is. Oh, could you make another copy? Hey, I don't have that. And then you're like trying to get the copy room, or if you're ever lucky enough to have a printer in your room, you're printing off a couple copies. And now it's slowing you down because they had some time to work on it yesterday and now they're have to restart. So you're like, oh, we're going to do this for 10 minutes and everybody should be finished. Then we'll do something else. Well, now that kid won't be done. So he's doing it for homework, or you're going to wait on a couple kids. It just makes it to where they can't lose it. 2, it's also, again, kind of going on the can't lose it side. It's right there for them to study. And it really helps you out and insulates us, because it's all of a sudden like, hey, if you have to contact a parent, why did my son not do well on the test? Ma'am, sir, I honestly don't know, because on our whatever system you use, your LMS, your management system, here's everything that's up here. Here's a folder. Here's their assignments. You can click through that and study it. There's some videos. There's some PowerPoints. It just helps those conversations, because they can see how much the student had to study. And then it kind of turns towards the student of, you have all this and you still got that grade. It kind of takes that pressure off you. I really like that. Use the digital if you can. That way you're not worried about making copies. For anybody who's not a teacher, when you have this mental plan in your head that I was talking to with Blake of, I'll have this much time to do this much, then there is few things worse when you are humming along on that plan. You're like, I'm killing it. I've done everything. Now I just got to get my copies done in the last 10 minutes of my planning for these classes. I all got worksheets. And you walk in, there's a teacher just literally making a copy of Moby Dick. It seems like, they have the copier using staples, and you're kind of peeking around the copier, acting like you're not trying to see how much you're doing. And you see this stack of papers that's so thick, and they're all staples. It's like, what are you doing? And you're not going to get the time to make copies. Unless they're only making 3 copies of that behemoth of a packet, you're not going to get time. And now you start to panic. It's like, no, when do I do this? And now you're trying to do it after school, hopefully, hoping nobody comes in after school to make copies. So using the digital really helps that, and it just cuts that time off. And we're trying to maximize time and lessen exhaustion. So these little things, we can get used to it. If you're so used to handing out paper copies, there's a little time there where it's going to be uncomfortable. But then before you know it, you'll be sitting there. It's like, oh my gosh, I can grade these papers at my kid's volleyball game when the JV's playing. So I'm not sitting there spread out on the bleachers with papers everywhere looking like a crazy person. I just have my laptop on my lap and I'm clicking through them. And that just makes you feel good. It's easier. So it's a great thing. So Blake, thank you so much. I hope those things help. But hopefully that just gives you a little idea and a little help. So thank you so much. Our next email, Addie emails in.
You've got mail.
And she says, and this one completely echoes the email from Blake a few ago. She first says, thank you for creating this podcast. You're very welcome, Addie. Thank you so much for emailing in. She continues on, I often feel very isolated in my role as a teacher. At our school, we're expected to teach from bell to bell. That's what I just talked about, right? And then with supervision duties before school, during transitions, and after school. During our planning periods, we have multiple meetings each week and meetings several days after school, leaving us with only a few valuable minutes to actually prepare. We're lucky to have even 20 minutes for lunch after supervising students and going to the bathroom. With so little time to connect with other educators, I often feel like I'm alone in my exhaustion and the challenges I'm facing. On top of that, it feels like teachers are constantly being gaslit by students, parents, administration, the state, and society at large. Your podcast has been a source of reassurance, reminding me that I'm not alone and that my experiences are valid. Thank you for that. Kinder words could not be said, Addie. That's the whole point of this show, is that we want to make sure you feel not alone, that you understand we're all in this together. And if nothing else, just the idea that we can talk about this, that we can get it out there is our whole goal. So thank you so much for sending those kind words in. And thank you so much for reaching out. And we hope, Dr. Jackson and I really hope that we continue to help people feel that way, that they have support, that they have other people that are feeling this. And, that connectivity often allows us to develop the courage to walk up to other teachers and say, I'm feeling this. I am feeling worn out from this. How are you feel? Are you feeling the same way? Possibly saying, could you help me? If you feel alone, we naturally start to doubt ourselves. We naturally start to say, this is a me problem. I am feeling this because I am doing something wrong. Or, and we hope we don't get to this, but it's possible, there is something wrong with me. It is a vortex of darkness, and we don't want anybody to go down that, because you feel like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I'm not very good at this. And then you have the other doubts. Maybe I've made bad life decisions. Maybe have I wasted this much time because I'm just not good at it. You are. You're doing it. And you're doing way better than you think. We're our hardest critics. So a big part of that is that we want all teachers, all professionals, principals, admin, anybody listening to this, you're not alone in any of these feelings, and you can talk to people. And it's nothing wrong with being vulnerable. Even if you talk to somebody and they're like, no, I'm actually doing pretty good. I think I got a really good system going. That's not to shame you and then make you go into the dark vortex again. Now you can follow up with, that's amazing. What are you doing? Are you doing something different this year that's really helping? Boom. Now we're sharing practices. Maybe they give you one thing that works for you that lightens your load. Hopefully we give you things that lighten your load, and you start to chip away at that. Such an amazing point. I love the point you made about teachers being gaslit. It's something we don't think about, but it is exhausting that we can work so hard and there's some that still want to lie to us or try to take our power away. That we're doing this job. And you think like, hey, we're doing this job, so sure, we'll get a bunch of support from the outside world because we're doing this job. And then it's gaslighting. It's blaming. It's questioning tactics. And all of us teachers are like, okay, I guess you want us to do this job the way, after all of our training and learning and experience, you want us to do all the stuff we're doing on top of these things you're saying we should do that you don't have much of a practical idea on. Awesome, thanks. To kind of hammer in this point, there's a great article from weareteachers.com by Jill Wiley called 6 Ways I Realized U.S. Teachers Are Being Gaslit Beyond Belief. Ms. Wiley came back to teach in the U.S. after spending several years teaching in Norway. And after coming back, she now had that experience. She could compare the areas. And she discovered there are several areas U.S. teachers are being gaslit, are being taken for granted from and having their power taken. First one she talks about is teachers in the U.S. are guilty until proven innocent. She says, in the United States, I would likely have been scrutinized to see where I contributed to the situation. Years of having administrators, parents, and even elected officials second guess our every move have conditioned teachers to doubt ourselves and our abilities. Wow. Preach, sister, right? That's it right there. What's the common thing you hear from the outside world? And I've seen this with so many of my friends. My wife has put things on social media, and social media has the ability to be toxic. We very well could do a 3-episode arc on social media for what it's doing to students, what it's doing for us, what it's doing for teaching as a profession. It's such a deep area, but even my wife there's been some people on there, she just puts out a very, not blaming anybody, just like kind of doing what we're doing here, throwing how she feels out there, being vulnerable. And there's some people out there, and the crazy thing to me is, especially like on Facebook, when it's legit your real name, some people say these things, and I'm like, wow, you got some chutzpah, my friend, because I would not go after somebody's profession and just with like a blanket, we'll do this. So you put it out there, and sadly, we are asked to basically defend what we did in a situation. If you talk about, I have disrespectful students, what's the refrain? Well, you should build better relationships. Okay, thanks. Yeah, didn't think of that. Or there's a fight in the classroom. Why didn't you notice the tension building to diffuse it? Well, I'm sorry. I was walking around trying to do high rigor with 27 other students, sitting down and building those relationships. You said I should build better ones with each kid, making sure they feel that they're supportive. And I just didn't happen to notice that, 2 kids across the room of my 27 were starting to get a little testy with each other. Students are failing a class. What's the often refrain? Adjust your expectations. These kids have been going through a lot lately. We get so many of that, adjust your expectations. My expectations are they're what the districts are. My expectations are, frankly, what we've had forever. Same expectations when you were in school. There's nothing different. So adjusting it is a strange thing to do. And it's also interesting because one of the reasons we're exhausted is because does anybody ever adjust their expectations for us when we're adults? No, right? I mean, that's one of the issues you could probably feel exhausted for being a teacher, and we'll talk about that next week, is we in the USA often feel even bad when we're going to take a sick day when we're on death's doorstep. Laying in bed, you can barely move, you got Kleenex shoved up your nose, and you're still like assessing, like, if I took, 3 Dayquil tablets, would I be okay to go teach? Right? Nobody says, we don't have that here. So adjust those expectations is very difficult. And also parents can gaslight us too. That's a difficult part because you come into this thinking like, I have an advocate in parents, right? Well, they can gaslight us. I need, parents, and I know most of us have children, but parents out there, we need to understand it's not teachers' jobs to drop everything for your student or to adjust their grade. What happens in the classroom if we get a grade or if we get something? We've already laid expectations. We've already set due dates and reminded them of them ad nauseum. We have remediation periods. We have tutoring time. So at some point, your child just didn't do the work or didn't do it well enough, and it's not the school's, administration's, or teacher's fault. It's their fault, and it's your job as a parent, because I promise you, we're doing this every day, to point that out to them. I don't know any teachers. And email us at educationalwarfare.pod@gmail.com. If you do, you don't have to say names, of course, but like if you've seen this, but I don't know any teachers who just a kid fails or constantly turns stuff in late and they never talk to them. This is not an online college class. With the online college class, you're a professor, you're working in that. I know Dr. Jackson's done some of that. I've done a few things with that. You check your inbox, your management system, the stuff's in there, you grade, the stuff that's not, you mark as missing, and boom, move on. They paid for this. You told them when it's due, they're not going to make it due, they get that bad grade. That's not how public education, it's not how a classroom works. If I look at my grade book and Timmy has 4 missing assignments, I don't go marrying along. I call a parent, I bring Timmy up there, and I'm like, hey, Timmy, I noticed you're missing these 4. What's going on? Why aren't they in here? What do you need help with? Which couple could we work on like now that we could just get turned in? What are the easiest ones to knock out? We already set these strategies. So when you see your kid's final grade or a progress report grade and parents call in and are like, my kid had a soccer game and then we had family in town and they just didn't have time to do it. And, I don't know, what are you doing in class to help them? It's like, no, they've been warned, they've been told, they know expectations. What have they been doing at home? After that soccer game, all all three of my kids are in sports and everything else you could possibly imagine other than sports. You get done with the game. It's 8:00. They shower. There's a little time there. That's part of being a part of other things, is your personal time is limited, especially when you have something due. So just like we're talking with our planning, you got to make some things where, hey, after your shower, you need to work. You need to do a couple things. Okay. You can't just let this stack on top of it. Their life doesn't have many, oh, okay, well, you had a soccer game, or, oh, you're an adult in a job. Oh, yeah, your in-laws came into town. Oh, you couldn't finish those. That's fine. We'll just, hold off the entire corporation's meeting until you're done. It doesn't work like that. You got to do it. So it is time to make sure we're not being gaslighted by parents. You've done nothing wrong. But it feels, when a parent's coming at you saying that, you do start to doubt yourself, because it's like, oh, maybe I could have done more. No, you've set expectations. You've been in class with them. You're fine. There's an age-old tale of a parent saying, well, you just don't like my kid. I'll tell you this. 100% truth here. Again, reach out to us on X, on email, and just tell us your thoughts on this too. One, we're professionals, and we don't let our personal feelings get in the way of how a student, you may not, if a student's difficult and just gives you a hard time, you may not exactly, be like, what's up, man? How you doing? You might be not super excited to see him because you just don't know how they're going to react. But you're also not, it would just be super petty. I can't even imagine just having a kid who you just don't get along with, and they turn in an assignment and you're like, well, this looks like 85% work. It's a B. I'm going to give him a 78 because he annoyed me. Like, that is just unethical. I can't even imagine doing that. So again, when they say you don't like their kid, they're trying to hit you in an emotional spot, trying to kind of get you in that trap. But let's go back to what I just said a minute ago. You have expectations. You have set due dates. You've most likely talked to them. So the only reason that kid's grade is bad, like them or not, again, because we're not adjusting grades. I'm not dropping a kid's grade 10 points because he annoys me. That's just unethical. I'm the adult in the room. Like, I'm not going to let a kid annoy me so much that I'm willing to shatter my values and ethics. So the only reason that kid is failing is not because we don't like them. It's because they're not following the things we've clearly said. They are not doing the work. So don't fall in that trap if you don't like my kid. You can simply, if you ever get that from a parent, very respectfully, we talked about this in the first episode, say, sir, ma'am, I set the expectation beginning of the year. I constantly reinforce that expectation of when things are due. I gave it out. I told them the due date. I monitored. I talked. When it wasn't turned in at the due date, I brought them up. You probably most likely brought them to remediation. And then either two things happened. They still didn't turn it in, or they turned it in, they just rushed and got it wrong, or they turned in half of it because the remediation bell rang and they were just like, well, here you go. That's why they're not failing. It has nothing to do with me, because I did all these steps to actually support your child and help them do well. Now in your head, you're probably saying, you're adding this, to support your child who makes third period every single day for 180 days a struggle. But you're not going to say that to them, but you're thinking it, and that's fine that you're thinking it. So we're professionals. And two, if we didn't like a student, just being honest here, just radical candor, being honest. If we didn't like a student, I'm not going to make an environment where that student has to possibly come back in my class next year. I'm going to stress myself out 2 years in a row to be spiteful and petty to a 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old. I'm a grown man. You're grown women. We're grown people. We're not going to do that. If anything, we would give them good grades to be like, whoa, great job, Timmy. Good luck in 10th grade. Good luck in 9th grade. Good luck in 11th grade. It was great having you. Bye-bye. That's what we do. So don't fall into that. That's just being gaslit. And they're just trying to attack an emotional spot, because then it can shift it from, what have you done with my kid, to, I can't believe how you're acting right now. So don't fall in that. You've done enough. You do enough. And keep doing those things. You can chip away at those by saying, I've talked to them, doing all this. So don't allow yourself to be gaslit. Another thing she talks about is that teachers are tasked with filling the gaps the government leaves for so many issues for our students. In Norway, they have, apparently, according to this article, several different government-run by the country agencies and things for when students are struggling, for that emotional support. And each school has a liaison for that. Because in America, though, we have things. I don't want anybody listening that's not a teacher to think that we don't have counselors and agencies to do that. We do. But it is usually for the school. It's a school counselor, and then you possibly have to link with an outside one. This is multiple support systems for multiple things. It's not a one shot like, hey, school counselor, talk to them about what they're feeling. If it seems really intense or kind of possibly dangerous, then we get an outside counselor focused on that. This is for each. They have a liaison in the schools in Norway for depression, for suicidal thoughts, for eating disorders. Like they have these things, and that it's not just a counselor doing it. They're in there, so you can immediately get that help. And that is just a support system that's great. We're exhausted because I'll tell you this, teachers, we are rarely just teachers. We often have to be a counselor, a protector, a tutor, a confidant, a psychologist, a mediator, and so much more, depending on what the kid needs. We wear so many hats. We have so many, and that is exhausting. I love that take for the article that, we just realizing how much we do can be exhausting. And there's often, she also talks about that we have very little protection from toxic work environments. That's another thing that's so exhausting at times, is that you can go to work and you can know that you might have some issues with kids, or it might be a difficult class, or you have a lot of work to do. But when there's, on top of that, either the administration is difficult to work with. And again, I don't ever, Dr. Jackson is a former principal. I don't ever want anybody to think we're attacking administration. We're not. They work so hard. They are the heart of the school often. But like anything, sometimes it can be a hard mix. Sometimes you can have an administrator who's just maybe not cut out for that. So they lean into, checking on you and just making you feel like, good Lord, I can't do anything without an administrator peeking through my door asking me why I'm doing this. And that's also exhausted. Or you have a coworker who just kind of makes your life hard, that they're just always complaining or asking you to do certain things, or demanding, or, hey, why'd you do this? Because a kid came in my class, said you do this. It's like, whoa. So we don't have many protections from that. And might be an interesting thing to look into, is that, like, hey, do we have a way to monitor what the climate of the working relationships are in the building, and then adjust those? Because you go into, again, we've talked about this first episode, your administrator is also your evaluator, also your boss, like the person who hired you. So how do you walk in that office and go, hey, so like, you make my job really hard. Could you not do that? It's a very difficult conversation to have. And then you say, oh, you could go to your assistant principal. They're hired because of the boss. Like, the head principal hired them. So what are they going to be like? So a bunch of teachers have come up and said that you make them not want to teach ever again. Could you please stop doing that? It's hard for them, because now does it turn on them? We don't ever want to kill the messenger, but does it happen? So that's a very interesting and idea that we may need to look into and be able to talk to other teachers about it. So I love that. That's a great article. I love that point that Addie made. And thank you again so much, Addie. So next one, Alex wrote in.
You've got mail.
And Alex said, I love the show, and I appreciate you both bringing these issues up and really making them even more real and easy to talk about. Thank you, Alex. I really appreciate you saying that, because, again, that's the whole goal. And I'm so happy so many of you are reflecting exactly what Dr. Jackson and I want to do with this. It makes me feel so good, so I really appreciate that. So Alex continues, my wife and I both teach, but she is working way more than I do. We both have good scores, and no, I'm not a coach, even though I'm a male teacher. I love how I had to throw that in. So I pour myself into my job too. But when she is working on things well into the night and I'm just flipping channels or scrolling on my phone or reading for pleasure, I feel at the same time that I must not be doing as good as a job or as dedicated, and that she is killing herself for a job and an eventual result that I get doing less work. I don't want her to feel insulted, and I definitely don't want to fight if I was to bring it up. But how can I talk to her about trying to work less so we can have more quality time together? Alex, that's a great point. That's exactly what last episode was about. I really appreciate you being vulnerable and saying that, because it is a difficult thing to come to, because as you're typing that or even thinking it, you start being like, is this real? Is this just me being kind of whiny? No, it's not. Your quality time is your quality time. We only get so much. I say that to my wife all the time. We get only a finite amount of time together. And especially, you only get so much time together when you feel good. And that's my wife and I've always talked about. We want to travel and do things kind of now when we're youngish, because I don't want to, finally be able to go somewhere and have to have a walking stick because I'm 65 to climb up this hill or mountain, to see this great sight in another country. I want to, enjoy it when my knees aren't killing me. And so that quality time is yours. So it's not being whiny. And if the way you say it to her, like you asked, and it's great that you did that, because so many of us just kind of blurt things out because we feel it and it explodes out. And then we haven't had the time to thoughtfully think through it and craft the message in a way that really shares how we're truly feeling. Because when you blurt something out, you're going with the first emotion you feel. If it's frustration, boom, that's how it comes out. If it's anger, that's how it comes out. If it's sadness, you say it through tears and like gritted teeth, right? When you craft the message, you can then say it through a lens of multiple feelings, and it kind of lets them know, hey, I'm not attacking you. I'm just trying to talk to you about this. So, but he nailed on the head. His wife feels pressure to always be creating and tweaking and grading. And he doesn't want to feel the anger and resentment that could build unless those things are changed. So this is a two-sided problem. Remember, often we look through problems through our lens of how we are feeling. We see them doing something and we're like, I feel this. They must not care because I'm feeling this, and they must be just rolling along. But you have to ask yourself first, before you kind of come to this conversation, what is she feeling in this case, your wife? Why is she working that hard? She knows you're a teacher. This is not a surprise that you teach, and I'm sure you both shared your effectiveness scores. Like, she knows you're doing a good job. So if she's never had the conversation of, why aren't you working? If she's just accepted that you're not doing that and seen you have good scores, she knows there's no surprises here. So let's dig deeper on that of what's she feeling? Why does she feel the need to tweak? I guarantee it, most likely the root of that goes back to what I said in our first Mailbag episode. This is a profession of the soul. She cares. And you care too. I don't want Alex to think that I'm saying he does not care. But she is feeling a deep connection that you most likely also feel, but you probably do in a different way. You may connect really well with your kids on a personal level. You're doing this work, and your care may come through the fact that they can come up to you and talk to you, or they know they can kind of kid around, and nothing disrespectful. They know they can kind of kid around. It's not like don't talk like that. It's like a very comfortable. They feel safe there. Maybe that's how you connect and have that. She may care through, I want them to have the very best things that I produce for them, that I give them, so their learning's good and they feel that this is meaningful and they buy in. That is also caring. All of it's caring. So now you both feel that. How can we talk to it? And it goes back to what we talked about from episode 2, that article by Angela Watson at Truth for Teachers. Again, start with both you knowing that you care and want that time that you can discuss certain ways to limit things. Go to her and say, hey, you have great scores. You're doing a good job. I know you want to work, but it's the same answer I kind of gave to Blake. Talk. We have so many of these issues. I see so many people who have these issues and they just haven't talked. You're assuming they think this. You're assuming they know this. You're assuming all that. Put it out there and make sure you don't start in a confrontational way. When you start off talking, start off with a diffuser. Say, dear, I know you love your job and you love your students and you're doing a great job. Is there a way we could make a little more time for ourselves where you're still feeling that you're producing enough for them? How could we get there? Because I want to spend time with you. I love you. That's why we're married. How can we do that? Right there, you didn't start with, it's really difficult to kind of be angry at hearing that, because you acknowledged them, you acknowledged what they're feeling internally, and then you said your reasons for it weren't because I'm just sitting over here bored and alone and you're not paying attention to me. It was, I love you, I want to spend time with you. And then it was, how can we do this together? So right there, you've already diffused the possible defensiveness. And this won't work every time. Sometimes people are just defensive but you've already possibly diffused it. You've stated that you understand them. You've given your very clear reason that's not, just a complaint. You have a deep reason for it. And then you've asked to work together. That's much better than just walking up being like, you work every night. I don't understand. Like, what can we do? Why? Why can't we just hang out? Okay. That is way better than that. So try doing those things from our last episode. If you didn't listen to the last episode, please go listen to it, share it, like it, give us a rate and review. We said set a date night. You're feeling that, you're scrolling. It's way better reading for pleasure while they're working if the night before you guys had a great time and a great meal together. Or you guys went and, whatever your kid's situation is, you guys went and saw a Wednesday or Tuesday night movie because the tickets were cheap. Now it's Wednesday and she's working and you're sitting there reading or scrolling or flipping through. You're not going to feel that because you've spent that time. And, as long as you're working through and say, hey, this many days, but set that. Again, don't take work on vacation. I've seen so many teachers do that. Like, you'll go into the beach, just, going down to Florida to the beach. I see so many tote bags that I see papers kind of sticking out of people carrying them inside. Or I see, you kind of come out in your balcony and you look left and right. I've seen people just out there grading stuff because a lot of teachers go at the same time, fall break, and you live in a certain area, it's around the same time. I've had friends who are teachers. Just have a bag there. Don't do it. You're on vacation. Take a vacation. Be present. You're doing a great job teaching. Those papers will wait. This vacation, the memory you're making with your spouse, your kids, your friends, that's only in that moment. It won't wait. That day that you have to check out and leave, it's coming. You can't delay it. So don't waste any of that. Your papers will be there. And guess what? There will be more papers. That doesn't end. So do that time. Again, we talked about this in the last episode. If you bring stuff home, don't make it a big task. Don't say, the only thing I have to do tonight is make the entire unit for progressive era. So no big deal. Just, 30 years, about 50 important laws, acts, people. I just got to make the unit for 7 days of things and I'll be done. That's a lot, So if you bring something home, quick, I got to grade this test for this class, or I got to grade this set, or, hey, I just got to go through and make sure all the kids who turn this in on the digital system we talked about earlier, and then email the ones who didn't. Okay, boom, 45 minutes. That kind of lessens that. And again, if you need a big work day, that's fine. But say most of those days we're gonna have date night and this night. Most days I'm gonna bring home a quick task, and then you might have a big work day. So now you all know what to expect. So that's a great question. And I hope that helps. It is a difficult thing, but it just starts off by making sure you work to understand what they may be feeling, and then have that conversation. And don't accuse them. Don't kind of be in their face. Talk, show that you understand, and try to work out a plan together. And hopefully that starts to lessen it. My friends, this is where we're going to leave it. Those are some great emails. There's some more. It's difficult to try to pick through, try to make sure the mailbag episodes aren't crazy long. So try to pick through. So there's some that are, that I might bring into other episodes, but please keep emailing. Please keep reaching out to us. They really drive us. They make us feel so connected to you. I've been teaching for 15 years, and I feel like just from some of your emails, I've learned so much more about educators and education itself, just reading them. And that's because of the power of you. You're good at what you do. You are powerful because of that. And you are making a difference. You're making a difference for kids. You're making a difference in our world. This is one of the most important things anybody can do. And you are listening to this. You are making those assignments. You are talking to those kids in the moments they need you. You are correcting behaviors to help make sure that our society stays a society. You are doing great things. And that's why we're here, to try to talk about these and open it. And please keep reaching out. You can find us on all the socials to reach out. We are on X at EDU Warfare. You can email the show, educationalwarfare.pod@gmail.com. You can, for all those who may have made the migration over to Blue Sky, we are there too. And we'll be at Educational Warfare. Just search that at Blue Sky and we're there, and connect with us on that as well. Let us know you're there. We're all building those followers on the new thing. Hopefully it'll be a happy place, a fun place, a different place, for those who know what I'm talking about. And when you do that, please use the hashtag Educational Warfare when you reach out to us, so we can kind of build that and do that. Our next episode is after this one. We're doing our third and final episode in our 3-episode arc on exhaustion. It'll be the war within. We are going to talk about some of the issues that are exhausting us and what it makes us feel, how it affects our thoughts, our strategies, how it affects our home, how it can affect our health, our mental capabilities. We've talked about what causes it at work and what it does to us at work. We've talked about how it can affect us at home and how it can get even exacerbated at home. But now this third episode that comes out next Tuesday, how it's just boiling inside of us and what it's doing to us, and possibly ways that we can cut that out and things that we can use to just slash that exhaustion to make us even healthier. So again, thank you guys so much for emailing and allowing these mailbag episodes to happen. They're so much fun and they're so meaningful, and I really appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Please share. Please tell others about the pod. It is growing, and it's exciting to see its growth and some of the reach we're getting. But please keep sharing it. Let us get out there to as many people as possible. If you enjoy it, just share it. If you haven't yet, please follow us on whatever you use. We're on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Pandora. We're on Amazon Podcasts, Amazon Music. We're pretty much everywhere you find your podcast. So please follow. If you like it, give us a rating and a review and share it. Let others know, because that just means the world to us, because we want to be out there for as many people as possible. So I'm Dr. Jordan Lauer for Dr. Ryan Jackson. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for being a part of the fight.